Hello and welcome to another episode of They've Been Doing It All Day, Sir. I'm Chris.
And I'm Ben.
A rejuvenated Manly, a defiant Raiders, and a dominating Blues. Let's get stuck in.
How's your week been, mate?
Yeah, really good. Cheers, mate. Can't grumble at all. Went to the doctors the other day and was told I weighed 112 kilos. So I was like, yeah, need to sort that out sort of soonish. So I've been back in the gym, doing a bit more running and whatnot. So yeah, changing that up a little bit. What about yourself?
Busy, super busy. A lot going on over the weekend. Been busy with work, but what a Saturday, eventful Saturday we had.
I know. Shocked. I think I still don't understand where that performance came from, if I'm being perfectly honest.
We're back. Manly are back.
No, we're not. We thought this week
Many
one.
a time.
We thought this when we beat the Panthers. We thought this when we beat the Cowboys again. But no, we're Manly aren't back just yet. They need to back up the performance.
They do. We got a tough, well, hopefully not a tough one against the Knights this Thursday. But let's talk about our experience at Brooky on Saturday night, because it was a slightly eventful one. You set the scene for your arrival and why you got there early.
I got there a lot earlier. I was like, I want to go and watch the second grade, so I got there a little earlier. Was enjoying a nice glass of Shiraz.
Interesting choice for.
I just fancied a red wine. It was a bit. It was a bit nippy, you know. It was, and I just wanted to settle in. And then these three gentlemen arrived and sort of sat in front of us. They were Queenslanders.
Were they from?
These three Broncos fans arrived and they started giving a bit of lip to the second grade team, just like flipping comments for no reason. And I messaged you straight away and was like, I think these three are going to cause a little bit of an issue. To which later in the game
they did.
They did.
And we've mentioned this before, like it's a weird one with the home and away fans mixing at games. And this highlights exactly the reason why it's not a good idea, especially when alcohol's involved. Now, like we had a couple of beers, but we weren't exactly being irrational or stupid. But it got to a point in the game where they were just constantly shouting stuff, and they were constantly like abusing not directly abusing the people around us, but giving a bit of
bravado.
Yeah, bravado around the Broncos being the better team, which they weren't, and kind of trying to create a bit of a ruckus. And one of the things that they kept on saying throughout the game was that Manly were weak. Manly were weak and they weren't going anywhere. They've got nothing. So obviously Ezra Mam goes over, getting booed by the crowd, as he rightly should.
Yep.
Which I think was a good, and his response, like standing up and putting his chest to the crowd, I think was a bit.
He's come out and said he thought it was because he stood up against Spencer Leniu and the racism. I mean, that's why he thought he was being booed around by other teams. But clearly he doesn't understand the significance of nearly seeing off of anyway.
A mother and a child.
Yeah.
Anyway, but look, people learn by their mistakes. I'm hoping he realises that his actions have consequences. Some people disagree. I disagree with the length of his ban and stuff like that. And he's gonna get it from all angles at every ground he goes to. But yeah, when he went over, kind of they got up, they went mental, which you don't mind. Like
absolutely fine with that.
Love it happening like that. But then Manly got on top and absolutely dominated them, and they kept on coming out with all of these. I don't know, it was a bit ridiculous, some of the stuff that they were saying. But one of the comebacks that we had was just using their language by saying they were weak, we'll keep on moving. And then when Manly kind of sealed the game, there was a bit of a comment made around, enjoy your trip back to Queensland.
Yeah.
And that didn't go down too well, did it?
No, they lost their heads. They lost their heads a little bit, which, you know, you can't sit there and give it to nearly everyone around you and then not take a comment like that. And it was all meant in a friendly.
It was friendly banter. It wasn't going to spill over into anything.
No. But yeah, they lost their heads properly after
that. They
that.
lost their heads, and the geezer in the middle was like turned around, like given the fact that you're a Birmingham City fan, I'm a Chelsea fan. We haven't got accents that sound like we're from the north of England. And one of them turns around and goes, "This ain't a Liverpool match." And it was like, what have you just said, mate?
Yeah, it was just they lost all sort of standing from that point.
There was steam There was steam coming out of their head. They knew that they'd been rattled, and we were in between their ears, and they were rattled. And people, like, this is why I don't think it's fair to have away fans in home sections or mixing with home fans because of instances like this. We've seen it on the Hill.
Yeah.
I think we saw it at the Melbourne game. Someone got chucked out.
Got escorted out,
because of the tins being thrown around. But the biggest thing for me and the hypocrisy about this was the security guard came down and threatened to throw us both out, which I thought was a bit...
you than myself, but you know.
Well, me and the guy out. And I thought that was a bit over the top because I was like, what for? Like, we're having like a good banterous discussion. But then you see on social media after that there's people doing the run it straight challenge down the hill at people, and they're just seemingly allowed to do it.
Yeah, and there was, I saw a couple of them, and I thought one of them was gone. Like, he slipped just as the lad was flying
through his head,
flying through, and I was like, how that was allowed to just continue is madness, especially in a fan safety point of view.
It looked like the side as well that was the family side, like, you know, closer to the. What's that stand down to the right of us? Why can't I think of the name of it? But towards our end of the field, like where the family section is, it was in that area there. And it's like, what message is that giving in to kids as well and families about feeling safe, being able to come to the footy? But it just felt a bit of double standards from the security, really, that I was going to get thrown out for what seemed like a...
And then there was a lad who we sat next to last year who turned around and gave it to him.
Oh, they were giving it to him as well, weren't they? That was it, because he kept on standing up saying they've been doing it all day. They get him on side, and he was basically, they were ripping him to him as well. So
they got what they deserved.
Yeah, they got what they deserved, and there was a streaker as well on the field that got sorted out by security. I didn't see, but we bumped into another guy that has a TikTok account, and he messaged me and said, "Did you see the streaker?" So didn't, but there was a few people that were held back by police as well, and like, it's the first time that the Broncos have visited Brooky in 10 years.
There was a bit more bother, was there?
Yeah, there was, but you know what? Disappear back to Queensland.
I think that says more about the Broncos fans than it does Manly, to be honest.
Which is mad, because when we went up to a Magic Round and we were there,
had a great time.
And we were sat next to those Broncos fans, and Manly were playing Broncos.
I had a great time with them.
They were welcoming. They were good. We had a bit of banter with them as well. I had a laugh. We saw them the next day as well.
Yeah, because they had the tickets next to us. So yeah, it was just a good day.
It was, but yeah, it seems like that overshadowed an experience. But what a game! Like, for Manly, we'll talk about it later on. But home and away fans mixing.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on it, because there's instances like that can happen.
Yeah.
But I think there should be certain areas where that you shouldn't have away fans. So where we're sat, it's quite it's not a cheap area to sit. And I don't want to sound like a pretentious arsehole with saying this, but like, we've put in a lot of money, and I don't want to be sat by away fans every week.
Yeah.
And the one thing I really enjoyed about going to Parramatta, even though we got thumped, was that we were in the away section, and I didn't have Parramatta Eels found jumping up and down in front of me.
Yeah.
I just had to watch three sides of the ground go mental, which I'm absolutely fine with.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think there does need to be some sort of it, because you want to chat to people who you support. Like, we have sat next to some amazing away fans where you do have fantastic conversations throughout, but it can get a bit aggy every now and then, especially on
a Saturday night
7:35 kickoff as well. Especially if they've been on it all day, it can be sort of issues.
Yeah,
but I suppose
at the end of the day,
on it.
Manly 13+.
Yeah,
piss off back to Brisbane, and we'll see you next time. But
exactly.
Big news this week, obviously Galvin signing with the Bulldogs.
Yep. Named in the reserves though for this week.
Oh, I forgot to check that. Yeah, there was conversations. Is he going to get a starting spot? Is he going to get the 7 jersey, which is one of the things that was being spoken about? Do you reckon it's a good signing for them, or is it going to possibly unsettle them?
Nah, no. I think he'll add to that team. I don't think he'll take anything away. He's solid in what he does. We've been big fans of his sort of week one. There was issues in sort of mistakes starting to creep in the last few weeks, but the lad's still 19. Like, he's got a lot to learn from the game, and I think he had some amazing people around him at Tigers, and I think he's got even better people around him at the Bulldogs. He's got Matty Burton, who's turning into one of the best halves in the league. You've got Stephen Crichton there, who's the best captain in the league.
He's so good.
Which will be interesting to see if there's any sort of...
Well, they're talking about Stephen Crichton going back to fullback. Like, there's a few speculations going around about how they're going to reshuffle.
Just with him and Jerome Luai being really good mates, I wonder if there could be a little bit of animosity like from that side of things. But I don't think there will be. But no, it'd be exciting to see how he slots into that Bulldogs team, to be honest.
Yeah, my concern is they're a well-oiled machine at the moment. They've been working on their plays, their structure. And they've been all right with injuries, like filling in. But does Galvin coming in upset that structure? Is it going to like piss people off? Like Reed Marnie's been told to look for other clubs. There's reports Toby Sexton, is looking for other clubs or being shopped around. So is it going to start to cause that unsettledness within the ranks? Who knows? Great signing for them. And like, come on, over the next 3 years, he's going to develop into an absolute
100%
superstar, I reckon, given the coaching that he's going to get. Like I watched the interview that he did with 100% Footy, I think, or whatever news outlet it was. And he came across as a confident young man that wanted to move for the right reasons. Whether that's going to piss the Tigers fans off, I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then, we kicked off last week with a big one, game 1. State of Origin.
Yeah, massive, absolutely massive game. As I said in the intro there, absolutely dominating performance from New South Wales. Didn't really see much from Queensland, if I'm being perfectly honest. They just didn't look like they were going to score at any point. They had to go. New South Wales had to go down to 12 men for them to score again. Yeah, exactly. They were just having issues throughout. There was very lack of anything from them, to be honest. Stephen Crichton had one of the best games I think I've ever seen him play. He absolutely
shut down Hammer the Hammer. Like, he was non-existent. And do you know what I love about Stephen Crichton? When he makes a decision, he makes a decision. And when he goes, and it's often he's getting them right, and he does get them right.
He's never caught in no man's land because he, as you said, he commits to it 100%. So even if he's made the wrong decision, he commits to that wrong decision 100% as well.
Yeah, and I don't know. For me, it felt like from Game 3 last year, there was such hype about the physicality of that game, and obviously New South Wales winning it up in Queensland to take the series. There was so much hype around this game building up to that. I felt it was like almost a bit of a letdown. Like, it wasn't as physical as we were kind of anticipating. I felt like New South Wales dominated from the outset as well. Like, the Queensland didn't even look like scoring until Cherry Evans puts the kick across for Coates to jump up to it. And even then, like, it's contentious around whether Toto actually, like, you slow anything down in slow motion. I think it was said on commentary, like on super slow mo, you can see anything. So Toto jumped up, had eyes on the ball, and maybe grabbed him.
I think he knows what he's doing there.
He grabbed him on the way down, but it is what it is. And they slotted the 2 points. And it didn't really, I don't know, the first half didn't inspire me much because we just tore them apart. A lot. But does it feel to you, I don't know, it felt like to me, like the Suncorp's losing a bit of its aura around a hostile fortress?
I think because this New South Wales setup over the last 2 years has such a swag around it. They've got leaders in there who do not care what anyone else thinks, and it shuts down any sort of animosity when you've got people that are around there that thrive off it. And I think it highlighted massively that they didn't kick towards Spencer Leniu on that one chance, and they kicked it the other side to, I think it was Max King?
Yeah, Billy Slater came out and was like, Valentine Holmes only kicks to the right or whatever it was. Yeah, the opening kickoff.
The first one went to Mitch Barnett.
And it was on the left. So, but do you know what? Spencer Leniu was fired up. And I tell you one thing that is going to happen, and if they don't do it in Game 2, they're absolute mugs, is kick to Spencer Leniu and go try and run down and fill him in, because I think that will spark. I think this talk anyway around not kicking to Leniu and kind of how, their attitudes being questioned, I reckon that's going to light up Game 2. I think we could have a physical one, but a bit of bad news coming out for Game 2.
Massive.
Mitch Barnett rupturing his ACL. So unfortunate. The guy has been playing so well this season. Comes in, was physical at Origin, led from the front in that first series as well, taking the ball and then taking a few hit-ups. Who comes in and replaces him though? That's a big question.
I think you go straight to Terrell May. I think for the physicality side of things, I like Max King and what he does, but just around his persona, I suppose I think he's a lot better coming off the bench than sort of starting.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if Kaloa Matangi has a performance like he did this weekend, if he backs that up, I don't know who. In fact, the Rabbitohs might be on a bye, but if he backs that up, then I reckon he could be within a good shot. And then the natural, I feel the natural replacement, because he was named as a reserve, is Atoya Kamano from the Storm. It'll be interesting to see though how performances can influence that. But Mitch Barnett's going to be
I worry about how that's going to affect the Warriors as well, because I think they've struggled without when Hargreaves.
They rely on both of them.
Not really. Hargreaves. Fisher Harris and him have been missing. They've struggled in the middle. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with them, considering again and not winning by big amounts. They're scoring points now, which is brilliant, but we'll see.
Do you reckon they make any other changes, New South Wales?
No, I don't think they need to.
I actually think this team could batter any Queensland team that gets put in front of them.
I think the only other person you might think about bringing in is Olakuatu in the second row. If he performs again like he did, because we had a conversation before the match, like what does Olakuatu need to do to beat Crichton and Liam Martin? And it was more around like the sort of the kick chase, like both of them, what they bring on a kick chase is incredible, but Olakuatu really showed what his aerial threat is as well.
Yeah, if Olakuatu was to replace anyone, I'd say it's Crichton out of Crichton and Martin. And the reason I say that is because they both offer two different things. Like Crichton runs with the ball hard, fends people off, stands bolt upright, shorts high, fending people off.
Yeah.
Liam Martin offers something different in the way that he's running downfield, chasing everything, hitting everything.
I really love Liam Martin.
And that's why I reckon Olakuatu replaces the Crichton side of things, of being the more attacking, run-heavy second rower rather than Martin.
And then if you have him and Latrell Mitchell stood next to each other in a defensive line, like
that geezer had such a good game. Like there was a period where we'll talk about where the Rabbitohs turned off, which cost them the game, but Latrell Mitchell just seemed to carry on from Origin. But there was also the women's Origin.
Yeah, a bit disappointing for the girls. It was just a case of errors at key moments for them. Really shot them. I don't think the Queenslanders just never went away, which I think the New South Wales were a little bit relaxed in at certain points. There were some fantastic plays in there though, and Church, I think she had Abby Church, she had amazing tackle, I think, within the first half when there was a lot of onslaught of pressure. Yeah, she had a great turnover tackle into the try zone. But you know, it's still fantastic for the women to win that series 2-1. I think John Strange is a fantastic coach within the women's game and what he's done, and it'd be really exciting to see how if he sticks around, and see how they can progress everything into this season with him at the Roosters, and then next season's Origin as well. Yeah, and
it felt to me like a bit of dead rubber mentality. Like they got a bit slack on their execution. Yeah, and a prime example of that is when, I've forgotten who it was, goes over and doesn't ground the ball. Like it's just, I think when more switched on, more focused, you're diving straight over on top of the ball. And really, and although I believe New South Wales then scored off of the set after set, it didn't impact.
No.
But it's little things like that where it gave the feeling of we've won the series, although we want a clean sweep. Like we need to execute a bit better. But like you say, great to win, get the shield, take the shield, and just a shame it wasn't a 3-0 whitewash. Really,
yeah, it was, but like the women's absolutely dominated game 1 into game 2, which was like unreal to see, to be honest.
Yeah,
and then from that into round 13. Big round. There's some decent performances, and that's where we'll start. Where was your performance of the round this week?
Yeah, I just want to touch on something briefly before I say my performance of the round. Last week, it was the week of the underdog, and 5 out of 5 underdogs won. This week, it was the week of the favourite. I think 6 out of 7 favourites won. But my performance the round comes from the one underdog that did win this week, and that was the Manly Sea Eagles, and particularly Mr. DCE, Dally Cherry Evans himself. I've not been the biggest fan of his since he announced that he was leaving and the speculation around where he's going to go, but I've got to give a man credit where credit's due. He didn't have the greatest of Origin performance, and with the Dearden, the kind of speculation around Dearden and the performance Dearden put on for the Cowboys in the game before, he knew there was some pressure on him to perform, and I think he marshalled the troops so well on Saturday night. Put the ball about, creativity, was kicking balls through on third tackle, was putting deep kicks right into the corner, and I thought he was a standout performer. I mean, there's a lot of people we can talk about from that Manly team that perform really well. Lehigh Hopawati being one of them.
Real performance.
But
Jazz
for me,
Tafanga as well.
Jazz Tafanga, who actually got in the hard-earned index team of the week, which is when we were sitting in the stands, I was like, he's an underrated,
he was everywhere.
Decent game. A lot of players we could have spoken about, but for me, performance around DC to back up from Origin after such a mediocre performance, and with all the speculation, it was nice to see a positive performance from him. But who have you chosen?
I nearly went for old Lehigh. Rewatching that game, he was very instrumental. Something within his game that he started to really improve and the shift was his sort of link play in the attacking sets. But I've gone for the Raiders.
They're so good.
I think losing Fogarty before the kickoff, I think that is huge. I think he was through it all.
It was a groin.
That's it.
Is it slightly concerning for Manly that he's?
We knew he's come. We knew he came with like a little asterisk over him with a little bit of injury history. But they've had 13 games on the bounce. Like, they're one of the very few teams that haven't had a bye.
Fair.
I believe, and they've been able to battle on, and again.
Well, they've had a bye after Vegas, but that's a forced bye.
Yeah.
But then since then, possibly 13 on the bounce.
No byes where the Dogs above have already had 2.
Yeah.
But for them to play against a rejuvenated Roosters side and still come out top, it was just great to see, and I just absolutely love watching the Raiders at this moment in time.
Yeah, and in saying that, I mean, we could talk about the Raiders when we're going to move on to the game, but what you've said there around they haven't had any buys, that effectively
they should be top.
They're top of the table, right? Because you've taken that's so they would be 2 points above where the Bulldogs are, and this is what I don't get the why do they give 2 points for a buy? Like, why can't they just have no points, and then at the end of the season you figure it out? Because James Graham was saying he just goes on the win-loss percentage or the wins and stuff like that, and look, they've won 10 out of their 13 games, so fair play to them. That's solid going. But yeah, 2 decent performances there. And then where are you going for your flop of the round?
I've gone for a little bit of a controversial one here, because you've got other teams that really had shockers around, but I've gone for the Paramount Eels. And the reasoning behind it is because I think I have put them in such a high standing now with how they've started to progress and how they are playing, that they shut the bed against the Panthers. There was errors in the final attacking third. There was missed passes. There was just wrong decisions, and it cost them. We'll talk about the game in a minute, but the Eels should have beaten the Panthers, and I think that they left it out there, and because of that, they're my flop of the round.
Matty John said that they're trending in the right direction, and I agree they are, but it's in that final,
it's the execution.
20 metres that, I mean, Addo Carr seems to line break willy-nilly all the time nowadays, and he's such a good finisher. But yeah, my flop of the round, I'm undecided between 2, and I'm still undecided between these 2. So the 2 that I've got down are the Knights or the Broncos. Knights because they are absolutely terrible. Like, I watched that performance on, what was it, Friday, and there was just nothing. There was nothing there. Like, and they pulled Ponga, fair enough, resting him because of, I think it's his hamstring or tiredness or something like that. But this is going to come back and bite us in the arse. I know it is. Yeah. We play the Knights Thursday, away on Thursday. But my other team, already mentioned them, the Broncos. They are or are they full of superstars? Because people say, you've got like Selwyn Cobbo's great, Reece Walsh that's great, Ezra Mam that's great, Patty Carrick. You've got all these players, but are we hyping them up to be something that they aren't? Because only 2 of them got selected for Origin. Queensland got battered in Origin. The Broncos got battered. Like, are we putting the Broncos on a pedestal that they shouldn't actually be on? They finished 12th last year. They're currently so inconsistent this year. I'm not sure the Broncos are the team that we think they are. So I think they're the flop of the round.
I think that's a good point. I think people, like myself included, still have the 2023 Broncos in mind, and it's not a team too dissimilar to that, which is, I think, the annoying thing. But I think you could be onto something.
And like Big Kevy Walters, is he sitting there going, "Well, I knew this was coming," or he tried to do something different after that final? Who knows? But it doesn't seem like Michael Maguire is getting the best out of him. And reports of old Big Payne House being shopped around in the window. I tell you what, Manly have got some money spare with DC going signing Fogarty. There's some cash there.
Yeah, I think we should be doing it. I think we've said it previous weeks. Manly should be doing anything and everything to sign him,
especially with how injured our forwards are. We keep losing them, but. Yeah, enough of the flop around. Let's go through the games. We'll start off with what was arguably the most entertaining game of the week. It was the South Sydney Rabbitohs 30, the New Zealand Warriors 36, and it was up the waz.
Up the waz.
This weekend, Warriors finally put in a decent amount of points on the board. It highlights the potential that they have. So knowing what they can do, knowing their recent performances, do we start taking them seriously now as Premiership contenders?
They are a very, very good team to watch and are very entertaining when they're going forward. And you can't deny what they're doing at the moment. But one of the things I was mentioning it the other day, I think they've only beaten one or two teams out of their games who started in the top 8. Yeah. Which is the little bit of an issue. So I know that the ladder fluctuates every week, and you can't have a definite top 8 at the moment. But when they've come against stronger teams, they've been undone a little bit, and it was creeping in a little bit when Mitch Barnett went off. I think they lost it for a little bit. If, as you said, if the Rabbitohs hadn't switched off for a period of time, I reckon this could have been the other way around. But not in saying that, the Warriors are a very good team at the moment. Yeah. They're a solid top 8 team. I think they're going to finish well in the top 8 to win it. I don't see them overcoming the Raiders, overcoming the Bulldogs, overcoming the Storm in those finals. And as everyone keeps banging on about. If the Panthers get there, like, do they beat the Panthers as well?
We'll touch on that in a bit, but I know what you mean. Like, I look at their results, right? They lost to the Raiders in Vegas, 30 points to 8. They lost to the Storm, 42-14. So that's 2 significant, big beatdowns. And then they haven't really shown scoring over the last few weeks. They've won a load of tight ones. They got the Sharks up next, actually, which is away from home, so at Shark Park. That'll give us a good idea, I reckon, of where they are.
And this is the thing, is like because of how tight the league is at the moment, it's changing week on week. Your opinions are changing week on week as well.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to put my finger on going, I can see these finishing and winning the comp. I think any team at the moment from about 10th, 11th could win the comp. There's just inconsistency within some teams, and in saying that, I'm looking at who's there now, and I might have overshot my comment there, but you know what, the Broncos may go on a run, the Dolphins may just come out of nowhere, because then you can't sleep on the Dolphins. But yeah, that's where my thoughts are on them at the moment.
I reckon this game has unlocked the potential for them.
Yeah,
like a lot of scorers, a lot of different scorers. Luke Metcalf had another great game. Nickel Clockstack got on the score sheet, 350 metres running the ball. Wateni Zelezniak got scored, Rocco Berry, Leka Halasima looks like a good player. They've got the weapons. RTS, they do have the weapons. It's just, can they do it against a better team? and this week will be a good measure of that.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbitohs side, though, Alex Johnson scoring 200 tries. He's only the second player in NRL history to do that. Kalama-Tangi had a monster of a game. Yeah. He was so close to being my player of the week, but maybe a bit of Manly bias there.
Yeah.
And Latrell Mitchell powering over for a try. Like, that is Latrell at his best. And then his bullet pass out to Johnson as well. He was phenomenal. And if it wasn't so they scored in the 47th, 50th, 54th minute. There's 7 minutes of the game that have killed them. If they switched on at the start of that second half, I reckon the Rabbitohs, and they were so close to doing it at the end as well, but I reckon the Rabbitohs could have won this game. So I tipped the Rabbitohs in this. I thought there was going to be an upset. I was actually there, popped in for 10 minutes. I was at the Kudos Bank Arena opposite watching the monster trucks, the Monster Mayhem or whatever it was with my son. Whilst I was in there, I noticed it was kids go free with a paying adult. So
that's awesome.
I was like, why don't I just buy a ticket? We head over for his first experience of a...
Did he enjoy it?
He did. I think he was a bit overwhelmed by the size of the stadium, and he was more engaged or intrigued by the people around him, like the social aspect of it, and trying to figure out what is actually going on here. I don't think he watched any footy, but to be in a stadium of that magnitude, he enjoyed it. So he had a good day out. I had a good day out on Sunday. Ironically, I entered when the Rabbitohs were winning 10-4. I left at half-time when they were down 12-10 or whatever it was. So, I only saw 2 Warriors tries. But, it was good to get in there. And then we'll move on to the game that we were at.
Yep.
The Sea Eagles 34 defeat the Brisbane Broncos 6.
Yep.
Now, I thought about this, and I thought about it a lot. When Manly are on, they're on.
Yeah.
Do they have one of the best attacks in the comp 100%. When they're on?
Easily one of the best attacks. There's so much threat from everywhere, and I think that was shown again on Saturday. And the word I kept regurgitating the whole time was just creativity. That had been massively missing the last however long. There was just nothing there. We look back at Parramatta last week. It was just boring up the middle. Then we're going to try and attack the left, up the middle. We're going to go and try and attack the left. Whereas there was DCE trying things. He was doing kicks on third tackle because the fullback was nowhere to be seen, and they were attacking through the line. Lehigh Hapawate was coming in, joining the line,
breaking through Payne Haas.
Yeah, which was a bit weird, especially in the first minute of the game as well.
He's put in Payne Haas has put in a solid performance for New South Wales, and then previously the game to that, I think he put in 200-something metres for the Broncos. So it's going to catch up with you. I
did say that last week is the quick turnaround. I think I was talking more about the Panthers game, but yeah, I can't take away from that. I think they are. I do, and I said on the car over, I do think there was a little bit of a time where DC was trying to force things. So it was. Again, they were attacking the Broncos' left edge. He was trying to make passes that weren't there, and I think Falalo got absolutely lit up on one of them.
Yeah. What a display he had.
He had an unreal game again for someone being brought in with hardly any time to adjust.
Yeah.
To replace Saab, and his little throwback into himself was incredible. He could have had 3 tries in the first 5 minutes. I think he had 2 disallowed.
Some chat I saw earlier was Falalo's more suited to Manly's style than Saab. Yeah. Saab's a great player. I was reading that earlier as well. Saab's a great player, and he's got explosive tendencies, but he may not be suited to Manly's system because of the versatility and agileness of Falalo. And if, obviously this is big ifs, Turbo comes back at centre, Hopawate at fullback, it means we have a real strong centres in Kohler and Turbo, and then on the wings we have Garrick and Falalo, and I feel there's pace, I don't know, or to be fair, Kohler can play on the wing, Garrick can play at centre. There's so much. Saab's just a pace man. He's a breakaway supportive runner, whereas with those you've got a bit of nimble, agile run in. So I don't know, but it'll be interesting. My worry about Manly is, yes, we have a great attack, but Alawae off, injured.
Again, it's the
shoulder.
Another forward gone.
Again. Sipley's coming back this weekend. Be interesting to see how he goes, but you saw him in the reserve grade.
It didn't look he didn't look dominating in the reserve grade.
I hope he proves that wrong this week on Thursday against the Knights. Obviously, Paseka's still out. Lodge is named in the reserves this week. I thought he had a good performance when he came on.
So did I.
Was physical. Good to see Nathan Brown scoring. Old backfence Brownie now turning try-scoring Brownie. 51st in his 51st appearance without a try. Scores after his a streak of 51 games of not scoring. So that's great to see. And it's the last person you expect to see on a dink through from DC.
But that's the thing. It was like because it was sort of. I think it was come from a little bit of a broken play. Yeah, it was because Tavanga got absolutely lit up on a pass, and there was a few kicks through, and Travojevic got hit. But again, it was just that attacking intent of everyone trying to keep up and make a difference. So I think we're going to be there on Thursday. So it'd be hopefully they can back it up and do it again, because that's the issue is the inconsistency.
It is,
I think I spent a lot of this game bemused in what I was watching, because I couldn't understand how a team could perform like this and then the week before do absolutely nothing.
I don't get it either, and I base my tips on recent form because you're only as good as your last game.
Yeah,
both times I've tipped against Manly, they've won. So, do I bring myself to tip the Knights this week?
Maybe you just take the hit.
Yeah, but light touch on the Broncos. Where they go from here, I don't know. We touched on it earlier. Yeah. Madge, has he lost the dressing room? Is he going to struggle to get it back? Like I see Reece Walsh on social media out playing golf with Cameron Smith. Like, is he focusing on his YouTube career? We've mentioned it before. I see him chatting in the comments as well around Brookvale's reaction to Ezra Mam and the media person saying he's just got to take it on the chin. He's got to realise what he's done. And he's got to take it on the chin and expect that. And he's fired back in the comments underneath saying, you've never stepped on the field in your life. I think he needs to worry about himself, if I'm being honest.
I've never stepped in a car under the influence of drugs either. So, like...
I've never hit a mother and child whilst under the influence of drugs without a driving licence. So, I can't step in that scenario.
So, I think Walsh just needs to bring his net back in a little bit with that.
He needs to figure out how he gets back to his best, and he needs to let his footy doing the talking.
Yeah, 100%. Because as much as I think the reason why we're so harsh on Walsh is because of how talented he is as a player. Like he could be an absolute talisman in any team.
He showed it in 23.
He was incredible in 23, and he is such a threat. Like there is times when he has the ball in his hands, he's gone. No one can defend him. And this season, even at the start of the season, I said it a couple of times. It was a step away from creating something amazing. Yeah, and he just needs to focus on that.
He does, but what next for the Cowboys? Yep. Who knows? It'd be interesting to see where they go from here. Sorry, it's because I'm looking at the next game. That's what it is. What next for the Broncos? Be interesting to see where they go. But on to the Cowboys. Yeah. So defeat the Tigers, West Tigers 32-28. I was walking down to Brooky whilst this game was on, and I left. I had it on my phone. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to bother watching this because they're however many points in front. Yeah. And then we checked the score at full time, and the Tigers have brought it back. So, bit of fight in them.
Yeah, massively, 100%. And we always thought that was going to be the case with the Tigers. And it's very much a round of where two Queensland halves were trying to make a statement of being picked for the next Origin, because there's been a lot of talk around DCE not being selected and Dearden coming in. And Dearden had a great game in here, just linking play and everything. But
his run game, pretty decent.
But in saying that, a little bit of ill discipline in the first half cost the Tigers. Yeah, they spent 20 minutes of the first half with 13.
So Luai went for repeat offences, and so did Dewey as well. I think they both went for just continuous penalties, continuous ruck infringements.
They had 14 minutes in the first half down, which has a massive impact considering that they scored 3 tries in the first half. So that's, again, something that we have talked about when it comes to Tigers, is that little bit of ill discipline there. If they sort that out, they're going to be they've got the opportunity to improve and get better.
Yeah, they've got to put this Lachlan Galvin stuff behind them as well now. Hopefully the noise of that is gonna end. Like, it's it's a distraction. It's noise. They can put that to bed. Like there's hopefully going to be no media attention around all of that.
Yeah.
There might be for the first game, and there will be when they play each other. But other than that, they can focus on themselves for the season. I still think they've got a good chance of finishing in the 8. They're on a bit of a losing streak in May. They've only won once, but that is with all the turmoil around what's happening with Lachlan Galvin. So let's see where they go from here. I saw a funny thing. I can't remember who it was earlier. I think it was the NRL roast. Was saying, May's gone for the Tigers, and then they flip over the calendar of the team calendar, and Lachlan Galvin's June on the team on the supporters calendar. So yeah, maybe they can't put it behind them.
Yeah, and look, the Tigers are 2 points outside the 8, right?
Yeah.
And that just shows how tight this competition is this year. But yeah, fair play to the Cowboys. They put in a very good performance, but seemed to shut off in that last 15-20. But did enough to get it over the line. And then we're on to the Roosters Raiders, which again could have been arguably the game of the round. Roosters 24, Raiders 26. Raiders, one of my, I'll probably say it now, my favourite team outside of Manly this season. Are they the best team in the comp?
Considering I actually tipped them to get the wooden spoon,
yeah.
I think I've said this before, but going under the radar in pre-season, you can never judge what's going on. And they've definitely been the highlight of the season. Are they currently the best team in the comp? I think they are. Their way that they come back from games, their physicality, their togetherness, their strong running the ball, strong tackling. And who's that 9 that came on? Owen Patty, whatever his name is.
Yeah,
like,
great game.
Sticks in a 40-20. Like, where's that come from? Where's he been? Like, and then they just have players that step up when players go down injured, and they're not losing as many players through injury, which is, even if they've played 13 on the bounce, that's ridiculous. And to lose Fogarty and then put in a performance like that, the comeback. I do think the Roosters shot themselves in the foot with a few errors in the game, but you can't knock what the Raiders did. Are they the best team in the comp at the moment? I think they are. I think they are. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I can't really disagree with that. I think you look at the Storm. You look at the other two teams, well, the 3 teams that are around them, like in the Warriors, Storm, Bulldogs, Storm. There's just something not there with them at the moment. Like, they are amazing when they're on. They are unstoppable. They can put up 60 points past teams. Like we've seen it, but then it's the jitteriness of them at times.
They don't like wet weather.
No, they don't. Like, they got away with one a little bit against the Titans. Then you look at the Dogs. Great team this year, physical team. Just continuing on from last year, they've been fantastic. But again, it's the little bit of grit in them. It can boil over a little bit. Warriors, we've discussed about where they are. For me, at the moment, they are the all-round best team in the comp. I think I'm a little bit more excited watching the Raiders and how they perform because of Fogarty and him coming to Manly next year.
Bit of bias, yeah.
There is a slight bit of bias there, but they've
Hudson Young is having an absolute season.
Yeah,
as well.
and it's such a shame that the Daily M isn't picked on. It's sort of picked on performances, but it's not the best.
It's a voting. It's very subjective.
If you're the best player in the worst team, you can end up winning in the Daily M because you'll get the top 5 points or how many points it is each week.
6, I think, but or a share of 6 points.
But no, he's having a great season. But the thing that we've always talked about is how they've got threats from everywhere. You can't just.
Where's Kaya Weeks come from as well? Like, he was terrible at Manly. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't a standout at Manly. He goes to this Raiders team, and he just is influential.
Systems.
I see him taking the ball like out of the play of the ball first play, and he's like running with it. He's running along the line, being creative, and then savage and.
It's amazing what a bit of confidence can do to people as well, isn't it?
It does. And something that was pointed out about the Roosters, that they've played some tough games recently.
Yeah.
In the last 3, they've played Dogs, Sharks and Raiders. They lost to the Dogs in an unreal comeback, one which they kind of chucked away. They romped the Sharks at home, and they lost a tight one to the Raiders. Where do we see them going from here? Because I think they've got potential to go far.
Yeah. Have got a lot of potential to go far. They're on another bye this week, which they can sort of switch off and recoup, and they come back against the Knights. So that could be a great tune-up to then go into against the Cowboys. So they've got the talent there. They've got the potential. I said at the start of the season that they're going to have a bit of a nothing season, and not that they are at the moment, but it's fluctuating in between a team that's could win the comp and a team that don't look really interested. But again, their attacking intent and defensive displays have been incredible at times.
They defended pretty well, and it was just a few lapses in concentration and mistakes that if they wipe out, and the guy is incredible. Nwangani Tawase, he is a freak of an athlete. He can score ridiculous tries again, leaping up, power to go over. He's just got to eradicate the mistakes under the high ball. He's doing it a bit too often. There was quite a few last week.
Well, Tupou off the kickoff dropped it.
Yeah, and as well, Daniel Tupou dropping it off, who's usually safe under the high ball. So if they can eradicate their mistakes, create a crisp performance, I genuinely think they can beat anyone. One of the talking points that we haven't got down, it's just sprung to mind, is like Victor Radley. He got cleared of he had a Category 2 HIA, but at some point, like, you've got to worry about his brain health. And I know we're not experts, we're not in a position to talk about it, but he's had so many knocks to the heads where he's looked dazed.
And there needs to be sort of conversations in the medical side of things.
Yeah.
Like, you look at Luke Kuechly, who was one of the best, arguably the best linebacker in the NFL, and he took himself away from the sport. Retired after about 4 or 5 years in the NFL because he was
one of the greatest middle linebackers.
Yeah,
Panthers, just unreal.
But he was scared of what was happening to him, and the reason was because he didn't take a moment off. He played as he trained as he played.
Yeah.
And sometimes with these sports, you do have to look at. You've got another. I don't know how old Victor Radley is, but he's got another 40, possibly 50 years of life ahead of him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to shorten that. So yeah, it's a case that sometimes you do need to step away from it.
I agree, and like I hope he's all good. His brain's all good, because it's the least thing that we're wishing for. People kind of brain injuries and everything that's coming out is a bit of a hot topic. So yeah, fingers crossed everything is all right. But on to Titans Storm. We touched on it briefly. Titans 16, Storm 28. Did the Storm dodge a bullet?
I think you could argue yes. Again, they just didn't look like a team that put 60, 70 points on other teams. They're just so disconnected at times. I can't really put a finger on who had a standout performance for the Storm in this, and I think the scoreline flatters them.
Yeah,
a little bit of. So,
Xavier Coates wasn't playing because he didn't back. I think it was him hamstring, not Ponga. They were arresting him for that. Harry Grant, I believe, didn't play.
Okay.
Because he dropped a grade A stinker in Origin.
He had a terrible, really bad game.
But I don't think that was the reason why he didn't play. No. I think he was just not backing up. But the point of the game, which I think is the contentious point as to where they dodged a bullet, is Sam Verrill's try that wasn't given. Now, I'm not an expert in the rules, but my understanding is the marker, you're not allowed to burrow through the marker if they're square behind where the tackle's made. But Big Nelson was to one side, and I can't remember who.
Pappenhausen and the other side.
Tino had kind of moved himself out the way. But Nelson could have made the tackle.
Yeah.
Like he goes through and round the side, which would have been to the side of a marker if there was a marker there. But he then touches Nelson on the leg, and they've classed that as burrow. Everyone said it should have been a try.
Nelson didn't get low enough. I was listening to the explanation earlier, and the TMO, also the bunker, was saying that he touched Tino's leg as he was going through, which then stopped Pappenhausen from making an attempt in the tackle.
Bollocks.
Yeah, I don't really agree.
It wasn't getting stopped. Nelson's the one that's got to stop that, and he wasn't in a position.
No, he wasn't in a position. I think Nelson's going to look back at that and go, "I've gotten away with one there."
Because then the Storm intercept down the other end, score, and I think they go 22-12 up maybe at that point. Big change, but unlucky for the Titans, but it's sometimes the way the cookie crumbles. But are the Titans favourites for the spoon? I think they are. I can't see anyone else.
Knights, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. Knights are terrible. Titans are terrible. I mean, I think I've got it somewhere down here that the Titans are $251 to win the championship, win the premiership, whereas the Knights are 201. So,
okay.
I don't know. But yeah, Knights, Titans. It's going to be spoon bowl, I reckon.
yeah. It's not. Yeah, it's not great for the Titans. I thought having Tino back would massively shift them, as well as old mate Foran.
Yeah,
but
difficult one for him.
Yeah, very much so.
But moving on to the next game, Panthers defeating the Eels. You had the Eels as your kind of flop of the round. Panthers didn't look impressive, but gritty win. And interestingly, the bookies still have them $23 at $23 to win the comp.
Yeah, was that a baby shower on Saturday, and I was chatting to a good friend of mine about this, and he was mentioning, like everyone around the conversation was mentioning, that you can never count out the Panthers, and he's very much of a believer of they're gonna just incorporate Ian Holloway's philosophy of we're just going to score more points than you, which. I know it sounded like a daft thing to say because that's how you do win games. But the thing that I really worry about the Panthers is their defense. Their defensive system, they look shocked. Like it's all over the place. And again, if it wasn't for Eels, who were building so much pressure,
they were the better team in the game. They were at least in the first half.
In the first half, they were having scrums 10 metres out, but then they would knock it on, and then the ball would change over, or they'd make a wrong decision. And it's, to be fair, I've got to give Jenkins a shout out on this. He had a great game in the air. He was up against Zach Lomax and shut down Lomax in the air. And there was a couple of times where Lomax went up and you'd think he was going to come back down with it, but Jenkins put in a good 50-50. But they did. The Eels shot themselves in the foot in this game.
What blows my mind about the Panthers being $23 to win the comp is that the teams around them in the ladder, the Tigers are $151 to win the comp, the Knights are $201, the Eels are $151, and the Titans are $251 to win the whole thing. Now, the Panthers have got to go on some extreme run to make the 8. And even if they make the 8, they're then coming up against the top teams who are beating them with, like, all right, they toppled the Roosters, but like fair ease going into that situation. But you can't count them out. But I've written them off. I don't think they're going to make the 8.
I just. Yeah,
it's a tough one.
It is because when everyone's, because they've done 4 on a bounce, it's hard to ignore.
With talks of Cleary potentially
going to Union, is his mind going to start going elsewhere? Which, on a side note, I think that'd be an unreal addition to the Wallabies. He would. I think it'd be a great addition to the game in general.
Yeah. We spoke about this earlier, but this is exactly what Eddie Jones did ahead of the 2003 Union World Cup on home soil. He kind of raided the league stocks and bought some of the best players over, and it feels like with Suoliti going, potentially Cleary going, Nawaqanitawase's contract's up. There's talks of him being in talks with, is it the Waratahs and Rugby Australia? Yeah. You never know. They could be building something, and it won't happen in time for the Lions, which is a shame. Yeah, but I think it puts them in very good. If Cleary does go, puts Australia on a platform as a team to watch out for in the World Cup. But back to the league, back to the NRL. Eels, although the flop of the round, do you reckon?
Yeah, they're on the up.
They're on
the up. Again, what being at the game last week, and they absolutely dismantled Manly. Like you can tell there's something there. So yeah, they're definitely on the up. I'd put them in that same category as the Tigers of just get the Tigers as well as the Dragons, like sort of those who are just flirting on the outside of the 8, who could make a late charge.
Yeah.
I'll put them in that sort of little category.
Talking of Dragons, kicked us off on Friday night with a
comfortable,
decent win. Like,
yeah,
Clemmer stepped up. Like the experience stepped up for the Dragons. They toppled the Knights. Knights didn't have much in attack. They're terrible in attack. But Dragons are 20, Knights 6. Not going to go into too much detail on this one, but yeah, old boys got this done, really, didn't they? Gutherson.
Gutherson, as we've been saying week on week, is you can start seeing the improvement of him marshalling and carrying the team. And I always reflect back to one comment I read in the pre-season scrimmage Manly and Gutherson had. Not Manly and the Dragons had at Brooky. And it was a comment of you could hear Gutherson marshalling the Dragons around.
And he'd only been there a few months.
And that little comment has really stuck with me.
You reminded me, actually, there was a video from the start of the year where they're doing hill sprints or something like that, and he was the first one to the top in all of them, like real leading by example. And it seems like his ways and his leadership is wearing off on everyone. So, got a question, though. If Knights had Kalen Ponga, does he make a difference?
No, because you even though a fullback can make a massive difference, you've then got to have the people around you to be able to link play. And unfortunately, I just don't think he would have had that around him. But yeah, just I don't really want to say much about the Knights because I don't really want to be sat here with eating my words next week.
Well, what a great segue. Let's go on to round 14, because the first fixture of the week up at the McDonald Jones Stadium on Thursday night. We're going to be there. We're going to be in attendance. We got the Knights, $2.82 against the Manly Seagulls, $1.44. Who you tipping?
I'm going to go for Manly. Hopefully they can back up the performance they put in last week, and that is where I'm going to leave it.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything.
Part of me thinks I should tip the Knights because every time I tip against Manly, they win. We win this, and we win it comfortably. I'm staunch, standing by my values. We go up there, we batter the Newcastle Knights. Hopawate has a ball game.
Okay.
Sipley comes in, is just dominant through the middle. Luke Brooks, DCE, just getting things clicking. And Manly, 13+. That's what I'm going for.
To be fair, when I went on my little rant about the DC who was actually beating the Broncos, I did say Hopawate was going to have a great game. I think I said he would score a hat-trick, but I think he had a good game.
You did.
Which then on Friday, the first 6 o'clock, the 6 o'clock kickoff is the Storm at $1.21 versus the Cowboys at $4.45 at the Storm's favourite ground at the moment, Amy Park, where they have put on some points. Where are you going?
I believe this is closer than what this suggests. I wouldn't say it's. I wouldn't be giving the Cowboys $4.45. I think that's a bit harsh. Like they've looked all right, the Cowboys. Storm at home, they're lethal at home. Yeah. You'd think that Munster will turn it on. Grant will be a lot better. Coates will be back. So for me, Storm and not $4.45 comfortable, $4.45 comfortable, but I think the Storm get this done pretty easily. Yeah,
I was just looking at the ladder there. They've got the Storm are 5-1 at home, and the Cowboys are 2-3 away. So I think that really sort of speaks volumes in it. And yeah, I'm going to go for the Storm as well.
Next game we have on the Friday is the Dolphins, $1.53 against the Dragons, $2.52 up at the Suncorp. Tough one, this one, but where are you going?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, this is a really, really tough one.
So Tuapoloto was named last week, but then didn't. Apparently he was a week away. Named this week.
The Dolphins have always been one of the teams that whenever I talk about them, they do the opposite. But I think with them being on the bye, they were on the bye last week, weren't they? With them being on the bye last week and having that sort of extra week off, I And being at home, and they've been putting in some decent performance. I think I'm just going to go for the Dolphins on this one.
Yeah, fair. I'm on the fence with this one. I think Jaden Sewer's out for the Dragons. But they welcome back Tuipulotu, Fatala Mariner as well. I'm going to join you.
Okay.
I think the Dolphins get this one done. I believe at home at the Suncorp, they play well at home. I believe they see this one out.
Okay, fair play. And then on the first game on the Saturday, we've got the Sharks $1.49 versus the Warriors $2.63 at the PointsBet Stadium. Where are you going?
Down in Shark Park. Warriors have impressed. Sharks coming off of a bye. Tough one to call. Warriors have lost Mitch Barnett, which is huge. And we know the Sharks have probably one of the best forwards in the game at the moment in Fanua Blake. I believe that's a point of difference in the impact that not having Barnett would have had. If they would have had both of them, Barnett and Fisher-Harris, then I think that would have neutralised the threat of Fanua Blake. But for me, at home, Sharks get this one.
Sharks are missing Mulatalo and Stone Street.
Oh, Stone Street's out with that. Mulatalo's banned, and Stone Street's out with that ankle injury. Yeah,
but I think one of the bread and butters that the Warriors have been able to rely on is their middle, and I think they're going to have a tough one against the Sharks. And I think I'm going to join you in going with the Sharks.
Nice. And then up next, the team that we love talking about, we got the 7:35. Also at Suncorp. So it's back-to-back games at the Suncorp, Friday, Saturday. Let's hope it's not raining. I don't think it is, but we've got the Broncos, the Brisbane Broncos, $1.32 against the Gold Coast Titans, $3.40, a local derby.
Ding dong derby day.
Exactly. Who are we going with?
We've just talked about him. Reece Walsh has been named at fullback. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think he's going to put in a hell of a performance. I think with a few that, I'm going to go for the Broncos on this one.
The Broncos can't go back-to-back stinkers. After the ripping that they've had from the media this week, Reece Walsh being back, Broncos have got to get this done. They have to, I think, for their season. They have to win this game. Yeah. So I'm going to back the Broncos in this one. The Rabbitohs on a bye. I said they were earlier. They're not.
Oh, okay. Well, that nice little segue onto the next one. First game on the Sunday, 2:00 kickoff. Raiders $1.43 versus the Rabbitohs $2.83 at the Geo Stadium in Canberra. Where are you going?
Jamal Fogarty's back. It says whether groin injury, they said 1 to 3 weeks. So it'd be interesting to see if he remains in that or whether he's a late fitness test to see whether he's ready. Starling is back from his, I believe it's from the high shot that his ban. The Rabbitohs have got Cody Walker back, Jack Whiten's back. But they've lost Bentley Harpe. I see the Raiders continuing their good run of form at home. They're going to want to keep the ball rolling. Raiders to get this. Yeah, I'm going to win.
I'm going for the Raiders as well. I think they're clicking. I think if you look, Tom Starling adds so much in coming back, and they are being a very dominant force at the moment. So I'm going to go for the Raiders as well.
Yeah, the middle game on the Sunday, we got the West Tigers at $3.41 against the Penrith Panthers, $1.32. Interesting one about this one. It's at the CommBank Stadium, which is actually a Tigers home game.
Yeah,
like Parramatta, Tigers, Panthers, all using that. And Panthers have played there twice in the last week, home and away. But yeah, Tigers $3.31, Panthers $1.32. Who you got?
This is quite a tough one, actually. You can look at both the performances, and Tigers should have won. You could argue the Tigers should have won and the Panthers should have lost. Moses Leota had a great game, to be fair to him, against the Eels, but I think the defensive lapses in this team, I think the Tigers have got the opportunity to be able to to attack, and I'm going to go for the Tigers on this.
Nice. Usually I'm the one that takes the risk for the Tigers, but for me, Panthers, they're going to have, so their Origin boys are going to have a bit of rest between Origin and the Eels game that they played. Now they're playing a week later. That's going to help them massively. Tigers haven't got Royce Hunt, who's a big, aggressive boy in the middle. He's out. We're going to split this one. I'm going to go for the Panthers.
And then, actually, this isn't on the Sunday, it's on the Monday. Bank holiday Monday. 4:00 kickoff. We've got the Bulldogs at the $1.42 versus the Eels, $2.89 at Accor Stadium.
Reports of this one is that they've done the same as what they did for the, I can't remember who the Dogs, it might have been the Rabbitohs, on
Good Friday.
Good Friday. $10 tickets. They reckon that they're on track to have more at this game. Belmarsh Barmy Army.
The Belmarsh Army.
But they reckon there's going to be 65,000 plus at this game, which will be unreal. And because of that, and the Bulldogs playing up to the crowd, they got to turn up, and the Bulldogs have got to beat the Eels. So I'm going Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going to join you on that. I think the week off is going to have helped them and come back rejuvenated and put on a performance for the fans.
Yeah, so subscribe, follow along, see how we got on with the tips this week. I wasn't great last week.
I got 6 last week.
You did all right. 7. So yeah, give us a like and subscribe. Keep up to date with how those are going. But big news today.
Yep.
Explain what you did this afternoon.
I bought us tickets for the Ashes. More specifically, the Sydney Test.
Yeah.
So we'll be there day 1 and day 3. I think it's good to have a nice rest in between. One, to recover from the sun, because we're not going to be well shaded, unfortunately. And the second one is you don't want to go too hard on 3 days on the trot when it comes to the cricket. But yeah, it's something to really look forward to. Could have probably arguably spent a lot of money today, but I reined it in a little bit, especially with us doing the Lions. I think it was a good decision to not go mental. But yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, especially 5th test. We hope it's a decider. We hope it's not been decided by then. And because we're there on day 3, you never know. Yeah. We might see the Ashes decided, fingers crossed. I think it's going to be a tight series. Obviously, we'll build up to it and look at in the future. But England currently playing a one-day series against the West Indies. 2 games in, pretty comfortable in game 1. But I don't know if you saw it. Joe Root's not
166
to win us the second one-dayer.
I was thinking about this when I was watching it. Joe Root always seems to put in massive performances when the team need him. When there's a lot going on around him, he sort of just goes in, hits a 30-40.
He knuckles down, doesn't he? He doesn't swing.
Still puts some runs out there, but when everything's falling around him, Root turns into Superman, and he got 166, which was an incredible. Some of his shots were beautiful to watch. But yeah, wrapped it up 2-0. Third one is today. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
And what was good to see, I think Duckett scored well, but he was out for a duck.
Yeah. Jamie Smith was out for a duck as well.
Out for a duck. And then, like you say, Root comes in with that experience. Just doesn't I think the highlights that they showed, they saw him hitting one. I saw him hit one boundary, and then the next highlight I saw was him hitting.
Well, I was watching it, and he was 7 off 14, and then he was 32 off 38, and I was like, what's happened here? He just you blink and he scores 40 runs,
and then you just see him knocking over his 50 in the highlights. You know, all right, and then he accelerated later on, and we got to a point where we kind of couldn't lose even with the wickets. We only needed 18 runs.
He built some good partnerships with Brooks and Jacks. I think it was. Which was good to see. So,
and then interesting incident in the F1 this weekend.
Verstappen just threw his toys out the pram.
He did, and do you know what? I'm not into Formula One, but there's things that catch your attention when you're scrolling through social media. And I saw the reaction of the first thing I saw was his interview after in the media, and him being his boisterous, selfish, arrogant self, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about," blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. And then he's come out today and actually said, maybe it was the wrong move.
Yeah,
but he's just driven straight into him.
Yeah, he's thrown the toys out. To be fair, I don't think You've got to put a bit of onus on the Red Bull wall there. I don't think they
got it wrong, didn't they?
He didn't need to change his position. I think it was very much a 50-50 going into the corner with him and Russell. And then he was told to overtake, and Russell overtook and was coming back in as he thought he'd been given the position, and Verstappen just went straight into the side of him.
But they looked at the metrics, and he actually accelerated. He'd slowed down and he accelerated into him.
But yeah, another win for Piastri.
Could be on for an Aussie world champion.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool from sort of living in the local point of view. But it's nice to see McLaren doing well.
Yeah,
they are absolutely dominating this year.
Well, even like Verstappen says the car isn't quick enough. Russell says the car isn't quick enough. Hamilton saying the car is terrible. So that's three major players that are nowhere near it. So I will openly admit Formula One isn't my sport, but it's good when there's a bit of controversy happening. And then last thing, big update, Chelsea have won the lot. Chelsea have won every single European trophy going. And we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago around, it's not a great achievement really, is it? Because you've won the Europa Conference League. Yeah. But you flip it on its head. And if we would have won the Champions League last, as in the final trophy to complete the lot, we still would have had to have won the Europa Conference League at 1 point. So, we beat Real Betis in the final 4-1.
Thumped them, didn't you?
Thumped them, but it was touch and go at 1 point. Like Jorgensen, our goalkeeper, I think that's his name, he pulled off some great saves. And
did you see any of the Champions League? PSG looks so good.
They did, but is it the new format that's allowed Dortmund to get to? I think
it was Inter Milan.
Of course, it was in Bayern Munich. They were playing in yellow. That's why I had Dortmund in my head. Do you reckon it's allowed them to get to the final? Or
well, no, because they still had to beat Barcelona in 2 legs.
This is very true. PSG winning it though.
Yeah, they looked very good. Rightfully the best team in Europe, to be honest. I think this season.
Fair play. But yeah, that's another one in the books. Like, comment and subscribe. Follow along for stay up to date with us chatting waffle each week, and hopefully performing better in the tips. But we'll catch you in the next one.
See you next week.